All right, welcome back, everybody, on YouTube. I don't know if my camera is going to be disconnected, but if it is, then I'll just redo the video. So, what I'm going to be doing, since you are looking at the title of the video being Atheism is False, is I'm going to get straight into what I mean. So, yes. Oh, it's my mouse that's making that sound. That's my mouse. Okay. I'm just going to get straight into it. So, there are two valid definitions. And when I say valid, I mean accepted definitions for the word atheism. And I'm going to deal with the first one because the first one is what a lot of atheists hold to. The first definition of atheism is that atheism is a lack of belief. What a lack of belief is a biographical report of your level of persuasion. You're not convinced because you haven't seen convincing evidence for a God or gods. Therefore, you don't believe in God. That is the definition of atheism. The other definition of atheism is a proposition that God does not exist. And if any one of you have done philosophy to any degree, you learn immediately, without reading philosophy for very long, you learn immediately that propositions have truth value. Either they're true or they're false. Now, the proposition God does not exist is false. Hence, atheism is false. So, for everybody on YouTube and for the two people here on TikTok, I am speaking about a specific type of atheism. The proposition that God does not exist. That proposition is false. That's what I mean when I say atheism is false. And I'm going to be reading some definitions. So the first definition of atheism, which is a lack of belief in God, is from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. You look this up on Merriam-Webster, you're going to see that atheism means a lack of belief or strong disbelief in the existence of a God or gods. When you look at Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, it says atheism is the proposition that God does not exist. Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy says atheism is the view that there is no God. Routledge Encyclopedia of Philosophy says atheism is the position that affirms the non-existence of God. It proposes positive disbelief rather than mere suspension of belief. So when I make reference to atheism being false, this is what I'm talking about. And I don't think that anyone is willing to defend the proposition God does not exist. I don't think anyone is willing to defend that. And when I say God, I mean Yahweh. And I'm defining Yahweh as the ultimate unifying causal natured entity who actualizes, sustains, and governs all of reality. He is the source of all possibility and impossibility, and the source of all facts. So my worldview denies the existence of brute facts. If there is one brute fact, my worldview is false. And, open the floor now for conversation. So the first person who requested up was Spooky. Okay, Spooky. Good afternoon, Spooky. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right. All right. Good to know. Good to know. I'm doing pretty good as well. Are you an atheist, Spooky?
Yes.
All right. Do you?
I'll tell you what an atheist believes because I'm an atheist. So I'll tell you what an atheist believes. Atheists don't believe in any gods at all. You have no evidence for any gods, so that's why we don't believe in any gods. So that's what an atheist believes. We don't have any evidence of any gods, so that's why we don't believe in any gods. So that's what an atheist believes. Yeah. So it's not false, it's what we believe.
All right, so I'm going to say something now. Do you have any awareness of the fallacy of appeal to ignorance?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think you're committing that fallacy right now?
No.
Okay, so
are you saying that I believe in a God? Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is there are two versions of the appeal to ignorance fallacy. Christians use it all the time. They shouldn't use it. Well, I'm not going to say all the time, but sometimes. If I say to you, you can't disprove God's existence, therefore God exists. Is that a good argument?
No.
All right. That's an appeal to ignorance fallacy. And that's the negative side. It's the same thing that you just said to me when you said
so
there is no
what you're saying is that I believe in a God. Is that are you telling me what I think? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm trying to point out to you that you committed a fallacy by saying that there is no evidence for God.
I don't believe in any God. So when you say atheism is false, you're wrong when you say that. Atheism goes like this. Once you put the TV set on, right? The TV set is on. You got all those different channels. All those different channels represent different religions, different denominations. Okay, that's what atheism is, right? It's the off button on the TV. That's all it is. You have no belief in any gods.
Do you think the words have meaning?
Have meaning? Yeah.
All right. So if I look up the word atheism in the Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and it says that atheism is the proposition God does not exist, do you deny that definition?
No.
Okay. So there's a definition of atheism where it states God does not exist, not simply I lack belief in a God, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the atheism I'm talking about is false, not the other one. The other one is a psychological mental state. A psychological mental state can't be false.
Okay, so are you saying that I believe in a God or I don't believe in a God? What do you think?
I think that you are unconvinced because you haven't seen convincing evidence, right?
Yes.
But are you saying that the proposition God exists is false because you haven't seen any evidence?
I don't believe in any gods, so I don't have any evidence of any gods. I don't believe in any gods. None of them.
All right, so I'm going to ask you again.
You like to play word games. It's like word salad, you know?
No, it's not a word salad.
I'm an atheist, so I know what an atheist thinks. You're not an atheist, so you don't know. You know what I'm saying?
So I can't read it.
I was Catholic for 45 years. I no longer believe in any gods.
So are you saying that if someone's not a homosexual, they can't know what a homosexual is?
No.
Okay, so
you
don't
like
say that again.
Yeah, you like to play word
Don't
games.
say that again. You said I'm not an atheist, so I don't know what atheism is. That's like saying you're not a homosexual, so you don't know what homosexuality is.
Have you ever been, besides being a baby, besides when you're a baby, because all babies are born atheists.
How do you know that?
Have you ever been an atheist after like 10 years old?
How do you know that babies are born atheists?
Every baby, you were an atheist when you were a baby. Did you believe in a God when you were 6 months old?
Let me see how I can put this. Let me see how I can put this.
You're saying that babies aren't atheists? Is that what you're saying?
Are rocks atheists? If babies are atheists, then rocks are atheists.
Yeah, all babies are atheists when they're born. You were an atheist. Every baby is born an atheist.
If you're defining atheism as a lack of belief in God, then stones are atheists.
Do you agree with me with that?
I don't agree with the definition of atheism you're giving.
You don't agree with the definition. Okay. What is your definition of an atheist? What is yours?
There are two definitions for atheism. One is a lack of belief in God, and the other is a proposition God does not exist. The first one is not. It is not informative. A rock could be an atheist if we use that definition, because rocks lack belief in God.
A rock is not alive. A rock cannot be an atheist.
Does a rock lack belief in God?
They don't think.
Does a rock lack belief in God?
You're saying a rock can be an atheist. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, that's what you said, right?
Does a
rock cannot be an atheist or atheist?
Let me speak. Does a rock lack belief in God?
Yes, because it doesn't exist. What I mean is it doesn't exist.
So, see, a rock can be an atheist according to your definition.
A rock can be an atheist. Did you?
According to your definition.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Right.
Way,
so let me agree with you. A baby can be an atheist if they lack belief in a God. I'm just trying to show you the definition you're giving is not informative. A lamp could be an atheist, according to that definition.
A lamp could be an atheist.
A lamp, yes. Lacking belief. Does a stone have belief? Does a lamp have belief? To any degree? No. People who die are in the grave are atheists because they lack belief, right? You see, it's not an informative definition. So what I'm pointing out is your reasoning for your atheism is an appeal to ignorance fallacy. You said
appeal to ignorance. So I don't believe in any gods, so it's an appeal to ignorance.
Let me explain. If you say that something is false because it hasn't been proven to be true, that's an appeal to ignorance fallacy.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like me.
So I guess I believe in a God. Then which God do I believe in anyway? Which God?
No, I did not say that. I'm just pointing out your fallacy. You have to.
My fallacy.
Your position has to be.
I don't believe in any God that I'm committing a fallacy.
No, right? No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is what would have to happen. You would have to say you're an atheist because it has been proven that there is no God. That's not your position. Your position is you have not seen convincing evidence for a God, therefore you're an atheist. But that's an appeal to ignorance fallacy.
Why did you think say atheism is false? Why did you say that?
The reason I said that is
let's debate atheism is false.
I said it earlier. I said the proposition that God does not exist is a false proposition. That's not you, right?
Yeah, I don't believe in any gods. Yeah,
you don't believe in any gods because you have not seen any evidence for God. That's an appeal to ignorance fallacy.
That's a fallacy. That's a bad argument.
Yes, it's a bad argument. Because
okay, hold on. Do you believe in leprechauns? Yes or no?
Of course not, because my worldview negates it. My worldview negates it.
That's a fallacy right there. Why don't you believe?
Let me tell you why I don't believe.
What about the tooth fairy?
Because my worldview proves that they don't exist, not because there's no evidence for it.
And my worldview, God doesn't exist. My worldview.
It does?
God doesn't exist.
Your worldview proves it? How does your worldview prove it? How?
The universe is 13.8 billion years old, right? Oh, by the way, which God do you believe in?
Yahweh. How do you know that the earth is 13.4 billion? What did you say?
No. The universe has been expanding for 13.8 billion years old, right? All right. So you believe in Yahweh, right?
Of course I do. Did you get that conclusion from the scientific
method? Let me answer your question. The sun is 4.6 billion years old. The earth is 4.5 billion years old.
Those conclusions. Did you get those conclusions from the scientific community?
Why are you afraid of my words? Why let me answer them?
It's a question.
Let me answer. What are you afraid of?
I'm not afraid of anything. I'm asking you.
Okay, so let me land the plane.
I'm asking a clarifying question.
Yeah, I'm asking you. It's a long answer, so you gotta.
Okay, go ahead.
Quiet for 30 seconds. Okay, I'm gonna try. Okay, so Earth is 4.5 billion years old. When did life first appear on Earth? About 3.8 billion years ago. Meaning, for 700 million years, there's no life at all. I wonder what any God is doing for 700 million years. That's just life. The very first animal on Earth were sponges about 600 million years ago. So Earth's 4.5 billion years old. Life evolved 3.8 billion years ago. And then your God waits 4 billion years just to create animals after he creates life. Sponge has been on Earth 600 million years. Sharks been on Earth 530 million years. Fish have been on Earth 530 million years. Sharks 450 million years. Dinosaurs evolved 245 million years ago and died out 65 million years ago. Primates evolved about 55 million years ago. People have been on Earth 6 million, 7 million years. Homo sapiens have been on Earth 300,000 years. So why would any God wait that long to create people? Why is a God going to create the Earth 4.5 billion years ago and finally have Homo sapiens evolve through natural selection? We evolved through natural selection. Also, I'm not finished. 99.9% of all living things on Earth are extinct. 6,000 genetic diseases. 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer.
How long are you going to go, buddy?
Any God. So why would any God do that?
Have you landed yet? You done?
Yep.
All right. So let's take it.
Darth Dawkins is here. Oh shit.
Let's take this one by one. Spooky. Let's take this one by one.
The white beater. I love to send him to heaven.
Spooky. Speak to me, okay? Let's take this one at a time.
I can't stand Darth Dawkins.
Has it been proven? I'm going to assume that you're an adult and you can control yourself, okay?
Yes.
All right. So.
He's going to drop me. He's going to have you drop me. Watch this. He won't answer any questions. You watch.
Oh boy. I'm going to try again, okay? Let's take this one at a time.
Hey, Darth, come on my lives.
Come on
my lives, Darth.
The Miller-Urey experiment from 1953.
I go on your lives. You don't come on mine.
Spooky. I'm going to try this one last time, okay? The Miller-Urey experiment of 1953. Did they create life in a lab, or did they create amino acids?
Did what? What's the question?
The Miller-Urey experiment of 1953, did they prove...
52, I think it was 52. I think, yeah, the abiogenesis, they had that experiment.
Yeah, abiogenesis. Okay,
Yeah.
abiogenesis. Did they create a self-replicating cell in a lab, or did they just create amino acids?
I think they created it in a lab, but it was 1952.
Okay. Do you
I think so, because I read I think it said 1952.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a claim, and I'm gonna.
Okay, so what? Like I said, you believe it came from dirt, not me. You believe it came from ribs. I don't.
No, what I'm pointing out is you don't have any evidence for abiogenesis.
Okay, let's pretend abiogenesis is false, right? Let's pretend that, right? And
I'm not gonna pretend. I'm pointing something out to you.
It's false. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You have a belief the same way I have a belief, but your belief is incoherent.
Okay, so you believe the Earth's flat, and we live in a firmament, and that the Earth.
No, I don't believe the Earth is flat. I don't believe the Earth is flat.
First of all, it's flat.
You're putting words in my mouth.
Right? We came from dirt and ribs. That's what you believe?
Spooky. You're putting words in my mouth.
Yeah, but no, I don't believe. We come from dirt.
I don't believe the Earth is flat.
Okay. Well, the Bible went first. Every flat earther I debate, they say the world is flat. They use the Bible.
You're talking to me. You're not talking to them.
It's a religion of one.
And now back to what I was saying. You can't criticize anyone for believing things that are.
I can criticize whatever I want. If you believe in talking snakes and talking donkeys, and the sun stopped in the sky for Joshua,
you believe that we're related. You believe that we're related to apes, buddy. You believe that we're related to flies.
We are apes.
We are apes. So that means if you have sex with an ape, if you have sex with an ape, then nothing wrong with that, right?
We are apes. I'm an ape. You're an ape. We are apes.
I'm not an ape.
Yes, you are. So am I.
Is it right to have sex with an ape?
For a Homo sapien?
For you. Well, you're an ape, so why not have sex with an ape?
I'm talking about my wife. Homo sapiens are apes.
Is your wife an ape?
We're all apes.
So you have sex with an ape every night?
Not every night.
Okay, so back to what I was saying. So it's okay to have sex with an ape, right?
I'm not talking about the hairy ones in the zoo. I'm talking about Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens are apes.
All right, I'm gonna bring up Darth.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, drop within 2 seconds.
Yeah, because you're very childish.
If you want to come on my lives, they'll come on the Christian lives. You don't have the guts to go on my lives.
Spooky, you're very childish, man. You're very childish. It's very hard to have a conversation with you.
You believe the sun was created on day 4, not me.
Very hard to have a conversation.
The sun was created on day 4. The plants and vegetables on day 3.
So I'm gonna everybody on YouTube. I hope that you're hearing everything that's going on.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
God created the plants and vegetables
on day 3 and the sun on day 4. Spooky one more time to see. Wait, Spooky, let me ask you a question. Did I let you speak? Rational? Did I let you speak for 30 seconds?
No, you didn't. You talked over me. You didn't let me speak.
When you were talking about the age of the Earth, did I let you speak?
Yeah. I wasn't finished.
Did I ask you if you were done and you said yes?
Yeah. So you believe everything was created in 6 days, right?
Let me see if you can hear what I'm saying. Did I ask you if you were done and you said yes?
Can I finish?
I'm not going to do this again with you. Spooky, you have proven to me that you cannot be an adult. You can't act like an adult, so we're done talking. You've shown that to me too many times. And you sound like you're older than me, and you're acting like a child. So you had to go. Darth, I tried to bring you up just now, but it was like there was a problem there. All right. So for everyone on here right now listening, when I say that atheism is false, I'm making reference to the type of atheism that is a proposition God does not exist. Propositions can carry truth value that are either false or true. That proposition is false. The reason why it's false is because it is negated by the existence of the triune God of Scripture. I'm not talking about a lack of belief in God. If you lack a belief in God, that is a biographical report of your psychological mental state with reference to your level of persuasion. That can't be false. That's how you feel. Your feelings can't be false. Your feelings can't be false. That's how you feel. And how you feel has no bearing on reality. None whatsoever. Lucky
Luciflex.
Luciflex. Are you an atheist?
Yep.
You lack belief in a God, or you deny God?
Don't have enough evidence to say there is one.
All right. Do you think that if something is not proven to be true, it's false?
Do I think what now?
If something is not proven to be true, do you think it's false?
No.
Okay, but that's your entire reason for your atheism, that God has not been proven to be true by virtue of lack of evidence.
What did I just say? What did I tell you in the beginning of our conversation?
You said that you're an atheist because you have not seen any evidence for God. Right?
There's a lack of evidence, yep, to
Okay.
convince me.
Okay, so something not being proven by evidence means
And I
it's
told
false.
you that no to that question too.
Isn't that the entailment of what you said?
No. Just because I don't have evidence to say something is true or not doesn't mean that that thing is false. I just haven't gathered enough evidence, and you haven't given me any evidence since I've been speaking to you.
Okay, good. So you not having enough evidence for something does not mean it's false.
Right.
Okay.
Your prompt. So your prompt
Okay.
is it makes no sense.
My prompt makes no sense. Have you read the Encyclopedia of Philosophy definition of atheism?
I refuse to do some more shit like that, sir. Listen.
Oh, you
how
refuse?
is what I've been saying false?
Okay. I am going to make a distinction again, because you were here when I was talking about this. Maybe you weren't listening to me. The type of atheism I'm referring to is the type of atheism that makes the proposition God does not exist. That's not you. You're the other type. You're the one who says you lack belief in a God. That is a psychological mental state, which cannot be false. It's a feeling. The other one is a proposition that I'm saying is false. Do you see the distinction? Okay, he left. Okay. I'm not going to say he's running. He just left. Maybe he had some errands to run. All right. Let me see if Darth is coming back up. Now, if you guys deny the definitions I'm giving for atheism, then you're not living in reality. You're not living in reality. Let me bring up Darth. I think he's still in the comments. Wait, still in the requests. Hey Darth, I was trying to bring you up earlier, but it looks like it wasn't working.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I was just making a distinction between positive atheism and negative atheism.
I have to reboot. Okay, so bring me back up after I.
Okay. I'm convinced if people learn philosophy, most people will leave atheism. Well, yeah, I agree with that. I was just pointing out a distinction between the two types of atheism that are accepted, and it seems like Lucy Flex was just ignoring definitions, but it's okay. There are people out there like that. I'm gonna try to bring up Lucy Flex again, and Lucy Flex, you can have a conversation with Darth because you were not getting anything I was saying. So
Ruby has mental problems.
I never had a conversation with Darth, but he dropped me for some reason.
If you, because you were becoming obscene to the host.
Okay, host, did you feel that way or?
Okay, so
you guys have a conversation.
I'm going to ask you a couple of.
I want to talk to Adrian directly. Did you feel that way,
Adrian? I'm
if so, I would apologize.
Do I have to kick you again?
I don't think you need to.
Do I have to kick you again? Do I have to kick you again?
I want to talk to Adrian.
Okay, I'm about to kick you again if you don't stop.
Okay, well,
okay, I'm being gracious. I'm warning you. If you don't stop being a bull in a china shop, I'm going to remove you.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are you going to conduct yourself maturely?
Yes, I would like to speak to Adrian.
Okay, all right. If you say that again, I'm going to kick you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, you're blocked.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, bye. You're blocked. Oh, look at that! I already have it blocked on my account. What a surprise!
You know, I had this overgrown infant on here named Spooky earlier. I was really trying to be patient, but I ran out of patience.
I've dealt with him before, and he has significant mental problems.
I ran out of patience.
He's a machine gun talker.
Yeah.
He refuses to dialogue like an adult, and like I just said, he has mental problems. He will not answer any legitimate questions put to him. All he wants to do is run his mouth.
Yeah, I mean, today I was pressing the point that because abiogenesis hasn't been proven in a lab, that's a belief that atheists have, that life came from non-life. It's a belief without any empirical evidence. So when they ridicule us for believing something without empirical evidence, they're throwing stones when they're living in a glass house.
Yeah, for those of you in the audience, if you troll, you're going to get muted. If you want to make an adult kind of criticism and then come up here and discuss it, that's fine. I'm willing to face my critics. But if you're just going to troll in the text, you're going to get muted. You see, because of their confirmation bias, their minds gravitate toward all of the talking points that are allegedly defeaters or negators for Christianity. But they don't realize that each one of their talking points are not sustainable.
Right.
When they talk about deep time, they're just simply, they're not actually defending deep time, the overwhelming majority of them, based upon the actual methodologies. They're simply invoking deep time because it is the current consensus. And the consensus has been wrong numerous times in the history of science. Okay? Now, when it comes to the so-called dating methodologies, I have yet to come across anybody on TikTok who even could basically explain accurately how it works. And they don't understand that radiometric isotope dating is based on circular reasoning. But they don't care. Am I an expert in evolutionary biology? No, but I know enough about evolutionary biological theory to hold my own in a discussion and a debate.
When people ask me that, I just say I can read. I can read. Yeah. That's all you need to know how to do. Read, and you can know exactly what the experts know.
By the way, in the Miller-Urey experiment, all they succeeded in doing was getting some amino acids to clump together.
Right.
They didn't create proteins. I don't even believe that they created, unless I'm mistaken, amino acids. What the Miller-Urey experiment resulted in, and by the way, the Miller-Urey experiment has now fallen out of favor. It's been discredited as far as the consensus goes, because the gas atmosphere that Miller and Urey imagined and put in their little chamber, the current consensus is that they don't hold it. That's what the gas state was.
Yeah. There's this guy named AJ. He has some very good questions. Maybe he can survive interaction. So AJ, ask your questions.
Hey Garth, how you been?
Oh, I know AJ. AJ's a good guy.
Okay, so I know that you say that what we observe around us, the world around us, must exemplify, must represent that which is ultimate, right? But how do you determine to what extent everything around us must represent that which is ultimate and must not?
You're going to have to repeat your question and make it more clear.
Okay, so for example, you would say that because we see personal relations, that which is ultimate must have personal relation because we see...
That's not how I express
it.
Okay. What I'm saying is human beings are ubiquitously relational. unless, of course, somebody has a neurological or mental defect. Right? If they don't, then human beings, it's integral to the human persona to be relational. Okay?
And that would mean that which is ultimate must be relational also.
Well, when we're talking about the ultimacy of reality, unless that which is ultimate constitutes the sum of all perfections, then one's worldview will collapse. And that meaning what is ultimate would have to be God, perfect, and that would include possessing all great-making properties, including being maximally personal. But if a Unitarian God cannot be maximally personal, because he cannot actualize the relationality aspect of personhood. But the God of the Bible, being three distinct seeds of intellect in one being, is relational within himself before creation.
So you're saying that God cannot have a characteristic that he is not continuously utilizing, right? So he has, if God has the capacity to do something, he has to have always been doing that thing. Right?
I don't understand your question.
So for example, if God has the capacity to have a personal relationship, he has to have always been having a personal relationship.
No, what I'm saying is, if God is characterized as perfect, then perfection entails having great-making properties that are greater to have than to not have, and have them without lack. Personhood is a great-making property. Relationality is an integral part or element with being maximally personal.
So a great making property is a property that is better to have than to not have. Does that mean that
and to have it without lack?
Have it without lack. Okay. And could a great making property be an unnecessary property? So, like, for example, you can't have mercy without justice, but could mercy still be a great making property?
No, mercy is mercy is not a great making property.
It's a contingent attribute.
Okay, so any contingent property or attribute.
So no, mercy is an expression of the great making property of love in a world where God has created other agents to interact with. So mercy is not an eternal property. Love is.
Okay. Now, would you so is there any other thing like would you say is hate a great making property like love, or is there any other like?
No. Hate is not a great making property.
Okay. Would you say so let me see. Better to have it and maximally have it than to not have it. Okay. Can you explain where do things that are evil, where do they get their power from?
Are you talking about moral or natural evil?
Like where does the devil get his power from? If all power comes from God, how does
moral evil is an act of agency contrary to the character, the will, and the purposes of God.
Mm-hmm. Now, how can anything utilize the power that they have? Well, actually, let me put it like this. Is the power? So God is holy, and whatever He gives is holy. That means even the power that God gives to His creation to do what it does, to operate, to function, that power is holy. right? But how could that very power that in of itself is holy be utilized in a way that goes against the very nature of the power itself? Like,
that's the nature of agency.
Okay.
The nature of agency, an agent can align itself with its creator, or it can choose to rebel.
Okay. And would you say that is good just like whatever God wills, or is there like a definitive way you can say that something is good, or is it just like whatever God wants, which could be anything?
A good is something that is not lacking. So, for example, when God made Adam before Eve, God said it is not good that man should be alone. So, although God was done complete making Adam, there was nothing else needed to be done to Adam in terms of his person, but he was in a not good state because he's a personal being, and without another person there to be relational to, he would be lacking his ability to actualize relationality. So the good is that which conforms to the character and the nature of God, and it is something that is without lack.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that because a lot of people will bring up like the Old Testament and they'll say they don't think a good God would say this or say that, and what I would say is that, do you think that you can definitively tell the difference between like what the devil might tell you to do and what God might tell you to do?
First of all, absent God's revelation, nobody can say anything about God. Okay? So God's revelation is good. It is pure. And whatever God creates to come into contact with our consciousness is revelation. So when you look at the moon, that's a revelation from God. If you look at your fingernails, that's a revelation of God. It's a natural revelation. Then there's special revelation. Right?
Okay. And how would you, like, how do you know what God would and would not tell you to do? Right? Like for example, it's like
God's revelation. Okay, so you're not looking at this in terms of God's perspective. Whatever God intends for us to know, we will know without fail. But that doesn't mean that somebody can reject what God has made us to know and to believe something that is false.
Okay, so we're not immune to being deceived.
Satan cannot deceive us about everything. Satan can only deceive people when they're in a mental and a spiritual state of rebellion against God. So being deceived is a temporal judgment from God when we deviate from what God has revealed about himself in natural and special revelation.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So like, well, let me give you an example. Like a lot of people bring up a story where they'll say God ordered some Israelites to do this, and they say, I don't see why God would order something like that, right? But let's say it is the case that God did order something like that, right? It seems like that's something that the devil would tell you to do. But if it is the case that God can,
Sir, listen.
yeah.
You can only know of God by virtue of God taking the initiative to engage in revelation to us. So you cannot say what God would or would not do apart from his revelation. Now, the Bible's very clear. God commanded the elimination of the Amalekites and the Canaanites because of their extreme evil. I personally believe that they were so sexually perverse that they had acquired sexually transmitted diseases, and because of their perverted inbreeding, which I won't go into detail, you can use your imagination, they incurred severe genetic anomalies that God did not want to get passed on to future generations. God has placed the sentence of death upon us all. So when they object to the unaliving of the Amalekites, are they objecting to the sentence of death upon everybody, or that they got an earlier departure rather than later?
Well, they have a problem. A lot of people have a problem with like the children and the animals. That's what they.
Okay. Well. First of all, people who object to that are not omniscient.
Mm-hmm.
They are calling into question right away. They are not working from the principle that God is perfect and that what he commands us to do is good, righteous, and just, even though we may think otherwise.
Okay.
So for example, I will prove this to you from a biblical narrative. When all of Jesus' followers and his disciples saw him arrested and crucified, they were completely dismayed. They were heartbroken. They saw this as an epic tragedy. Was it?
Yeah.
Was Jesus' crucifixion an epic tragedy?
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Oh.
Jesus laying down his own life, as he said, was to be the propitiation for our sins, to provide salvation for us. Okay? Now, if Jesus died and he wasn't risen from the dead, then you might say it was a tragedy. But I think, according to the narrative, he was resurrected on the third day. So from the human perspective, when they saw Jesus being nailed to the cross, their hearts were completely broken. They thought that this was the Messiah. We are not in a position to call into question the goodness or the righteousness or justice of God, including when he commands all of the Amalekites, including the children, to be wiped out. Now, every single one of the Amalekites, including the children, already had the sentence of death upon them, didn't they? Now, if God had allowed them to remain alive, I believe they would have been able to reproduce, copulate with other people groups, and transmit, in my opinion, the scripture doesn't say this, but it's commensurate with the text, genetic anomalies and sexually transmitted diseases. So God was quarantining them by giving them an early death from harming other people groups, including the little children. Okay. So that's not the end of their existence. Physical death is just a change of location. So what the atheist has to do, or the skeptic, is they're going to have to object to God having the prerogative to place the sentence of death upon everybody. Now, if they don't object to that, then all they're just going to left with is that the younglings got an early departure. Now, when people criticize the God of the Bible for what he did, they're just attempting to defame and smear God. I'll just ask them this question: are you omniscient? And the answer is no. So how are they able to ascertain that God doesn't have his own sufficient reasons why he commanded them to be eliminated? God has communicated to us that he is a perfect God. So if he's a perfect God, then he has all complete sufficient reasons for ordering their extermination, as unpleasant or unpalatable as it seems to us. So these people don't have a leg to stand on other than their mere relativistic human opinion.
So if we say that God is able to order us to do anything and God does not owe us an explanation, then
why do I need an explanation when I'm already operating in principle that God has clearly and accurately communicated to us that what he does is perfect?
No, I mean like what? Because we do have other entities that can pretend to speak on God's behalf. That's the problem.
Let me explain something to you. Nobody can say anything about the nature of God unless they're operating in principle upon God's communication and revelation to us. If they speak to us about the nature of God apart from God's revelation, why is that authoritative? It's not.
What would you think if somebody said that people with that have sexual diseases like HIV, etc., that they should be unalive? Do you think that would be morally just?
It is not our prerogative to unalive people because they've contracted certain diseases. It is, however, God's prerogative to end life according to his plan of redemptive history. And so what they're doing is, when they criticize the God of the Bible because they cannot falsify him, they're attempting to smear and slander him. But first of all, they're attacking a caricature of the God of the Bible when they attack the God of the Bible. Because you say, well, wait a minute, are you criticizing the God of the Bible? Yes, okay. So yeah, we should ask them, is it wise to attack that which is perfect? And if they say, well, I don't think that God, were he to exist, would be perfect, and say, good, then you are operating in virtue of ultimate imperfection is what is encompassing you and what your origin is. Your origin is from ultimate imperfection rather than ultimate perfection. So why should I trust anything anyone says when they're standing on the foundation of ultimate imperfection?
How do you determine to what extent we are to follow God as an example, and God is able to do things that necessarily we are not allowed to do?
When God gives us clear commands to do X, Y, Z, then we ought to do that, because to not do it would be insane.
And how do we know that it would indeed be God giving us the revelation?
God's revelation does not fail to reach us. Okay? Now, insofar as natural revelation goes, now there's some people that still haven't heard about Jesus, but what I'm saying to you is, all that God intends for us to know, we will know.
And that can differ from person to person.
Well, yeah. Well, for example, God has given his revelation. We'll call that light. There's natural revelation and there's special revelation. There are people who have yet to hear about Jesus in some remote places, but they have the light of creation. And if they ignore the light of creation, then it doesn't matter that they don't receive special revelation.
Okay.
The bottom line is, when people attack the God of the Bible, because of their lack of due diligence in studying biblical theology, they make one mistake after another. They're making relativistic attacks. It would be like if the Iranian army were trying to defeat the United States Navy by throwing water balloons at them. So when they criticize the God of the Bible, they are always attacking a caricature, a straw man. And I can prove it every single time, because I'll just simply ask them, why are you criticizing God who clearly reveals that he is perfect? Because they wouldn't be so stupid to say, yes, I am criticizing this thing, God, that's perfect. No, they're going to claim that they're criticizing a hypothetical being who is not perfect and who does things that they dislike in God. Then you're making a judgment based upon ultimate imperfection. You're finding imperfection in their caricature of the God of the Bible, but you're operating from an atmosphere, an environment that you have been begotten from that is ultimate imperfection. So why should we trust anything they think or say when it's from the environment or foundation of ultimate imperfection?
And God Himself defines what is perfect, right? Or the way.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, an interesting thing that I would like to ask is if certain words, right? Because when we use words, they have a definition. We for the most part define what most words mean. But if it is the case that God has His own definition of what certain words mean, why didn't God give us a dictionary or something like that as to what He wants certain words to mean and represent?
Why didn't God give us a dictionary?
Yeah.
Why do we need a dictionary?
Well, because like a lot of people say God's good, right? But when you look at the definition of good, it says
God communicates in normal language. He communicated in Hebrew, and he also communicated in terms of, in the New Testament era, in common Greek. Okay. Look, all of the attacks upon the God of the Bible, every single one of them they heard, they just come down to relativistic caricatures, straw men. If you see, when we place the spotlight of the truth of God upon the critic, his criticisms are like Dorian Gray when we reveal his picture. They shrivel up and die. Do you know who Dorian Gray was?
no, what was that?
Dorian Gray was a fictional character who had a portrait painting of himself, and it was placed in his attic, and he remained ever youthful for a long period of time while his painting aged. And then when he, I forget the exact story, encountered it again, it reversed itself. The bottom line, what I'm saying is, because they can't falsify God, the God of the Bible, they're attempting to smear and slander him, saying, oh, your God allowed slavery, your God committed genocide. All of these are caricatures. They are straw men. They are not being properly contextualized. Because if they did properly contextualize them, then the caricature that they attack would be obvious. So the job of the Christian is to point out to the atheist what the true biblical context is that they're attacking.
Do you think that a person limited to only natural revelation, can they arrive to a conclusion as to what is right or wrong, limited solely to natural revelation?
God has placed his laws upon our heart to love our neighbors as ourselves.
Okay. So it should be instinctual to want to do.
Well, and the Bible teaches God has put in that basic moral law in everybody's heart.
Okay. And what do you think about people who like psychopaths and stuff like that?
Well, do we really have to discuss the Democratic Party? See, this is why I don't fear any skeptic or any atheist, because I know it's all a big bluff. They're huffing and they're puffing, but there's nothing there. Why do they spend so much time discrediting the God of the Bible when they think he's the equivalent of Barney the dinosaur?
I think it's because I think it's just because they grew up in society and and it's like what you were talking about.
No. They take the God of the Bible very seriously, and they also have a vendetta against their religious upbringing. Why are they on this atheist, skeptical, evangelistic agenda? Why?
Wait. Hold on. Gotta go live again. Let me share this with Darth. All right. Okay. So my TikTok got restricted just now, so I had to reboot it. Hey Darth, come back up. I got a notification that I got restricted, so
What
I had
happened?
to. I got a notification that my TikTok got restricted to certain viewers, so I rebooted it.
For what?
I have no idea why. Let me see. I just restarted it though, so it should be going to more viewers. Because TikTok recommends your lives, depending on the content or something like that. But I got restricted just now. I don't know why.
Yeah. So, like the issue with slavery. Don't forget to read those 2 chapters in Paul Copan's book. One is God a vindictive bully, and the other is God a moral monster. The 2 chapters in each book are fantastic.
Yeah,
See,
I want you to elaborate on. I want you to elaborate on
so the word
radiometric isotope dating.
Okay, so in order to understand where we are today with that, it's helpful to understand the history of geology. So prior to the 19th century, which was the century Darwin lived in, there was a guy by the name of James Hutton who did not succeed at changing many minds, but he came up with this idea that deep time was true and that the geological formations are the result of eons of slow-moving processes rather than catastrophic occurrences. Now, in the middle of the 19th century, along came a brilliant lawyer by the name of Charles Lyell, who wrote a 3-volume set called Principles of Geology, where he used his intellectual rhetorical skills to advance uniformitarianism, that the key to the past is the present, that certain geological formations are to be understood not as the result of massive catastrophes, but of very slow moving processes that we see today.
What's the book called again?
Well, The Principles of Geology by Charles Lyell.
Yeah.
And
he believed in uniformitarianism, and you were saying something else. Continue.
He didn't invent the idea, but he was the one who successfully promulgated it with his amazing rhetorical skills.
Yeah.
Even Stephen Jay Gould, the brilliant evolutionist and paleontologist, wrote in one of his books that I have on my computer, he said Lyell did not succeed at presenting evidence for this idea of deep time, but he won the day by his brilliant rhetorical skills. And this is somebody, Gould, who accepts deep time. So Darwin studied Lyell's Principles of Geology, got indoctrinated that deep time is true, and that a young Earth was a fable from his perspective. That was the secret sauce that Darwin needed, or so he thought, that if you have enough time, then evolution can happen. What he didn't know was that evolution, even if you gave it an enormous amount of time, it's still virtually statistically impossible.
Yeah, mathematically impossible.
So it's as close to statistical impossibility as anything you could calculate. Now, by the time we got into the early part of the 20th century, the idea of deep time became solidified and became consensus. So they believed in millions and billions of years, even before the revolution in atomic discoveries and radioactivity. By the time that came up, they said, well, wait a minute. Since these rocks are very old, we can detect a daughter isotope and then count backwards to its putative parent element, and then we can figure out how old it is. But that's begging the question. That's circular reasoning.
Yes.
They have to have an a priori commitment to the absolute falsity of young Earth creationism in order to proceed to use the methodologies and extrapolation in order to say, oh, well, this rock is 1.5 billion years old.
So their conclusion is already assumed before even going to try to prove it.
They're starting with deep time being true.
Yeah.
And then they develop methodologies and say, well, based upon these extrapolations, right, then the rock is really old. A book you might want to pick up in the creationist folder, there is a book called The Great Turning Point. It's a folder called The Great Turning Point by Dr. Terry Mortensen. And he is a Bible-believing Christian. And the book is basically a somewhat condensed version of his doctoral dissertation. And he has a PhD in the history of geology.
What's his name again?
Terry Mortensen.
Terry.
The title of the book is called The Great Turning Point. I'm just finishing up the touches on a new book that I have acquired in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers. Let's see, where is that folder? What did I do with that? That's weird.
Nicotine stained.
Oh, here it is. It's called, yeah, that's a joke. That's a Rush Limbaugh joke. Here's a book, and I'll I'll send you to the link when I upload it. I'll be uploading it in the next day or two. I'm just fixing up some typographical issues with the book. It's called The New Creationism.
Yeah, I need you to resend me your updated library because I know you updated it since recently.
Well, I have to re-upload to the cloud drive.
Yeah, do that.
That's going to take me at least a week to do that because uploading is so slow.
Oh, okay.
Because you're talking about 180 gigs. So when I get that done, I'll let you know when you can just read down the whole thing and then get rid of the previous stuff because this entirely it's the same material that you have but lots more.
Yeah, and I want to get as much as I can.
Deals with radiometric isotope dating. And I'll read you some of the chapters. It talks about cosmology. It talks about radiometric isotope dating, but it's called The New Creationism. But I'll have the link for you in like 2 days.
Yeah, because I would like to be one of those people who actually understand radiometric isotope dating and the circular reasoning of it to point out that they're assuming the thing that they haven't proven yet.
Yeah, the creationist folder is chock full of first-class books dealing with defending creationism and opposing deep time. Just peruse through the list in the creationist folder. There's a lot of the books in there that deal with these issues. But the Terry Mortensen book, The Great Turning Point, it's in a folder in the creationist folder. The folder's called The Great Turning Point. He goes through the history of geology, and he, as I said, he has a PhD, but he's coming at it from, he's a solid Bible-believing Christian, and he either is or he was one of the lead people at Answers in Genesis about geology.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really good book. It's called The Great Turning Point. He just doesn't have a PhD in geology. He has a PhD in the history of geology, that's killer.
That's amazing. I'm gonna have to. I mean, I have so many resources. I just come on here to keep myself sharp with the objections and practicing precept because if you don't practice it, I realize, well, for me at least, I start losing information. I start losing stuff.
Yeah, you gotta practice. You have right now all the resources that you could want on that issue. You will find in the creationist folder. There are hundreds and hundreds of volumes in there.
You know what you should do in the next upload you do is you could just create a separate folder called new editions or new books or whatever, and I could just download that particular folder and add it to what I already have instead of everything that's there.
Well, yeah, I'll do that in the future. The problem is I start to want to sort these books, so they're I have in there. You will see if you go onto the cloud drive. You'll see at the upper one. You'll see new books as of January 26th.
Yeah.
Right. And they've yet to be sorted. So there's a couple of folders at the topmost level, alphabetical, where there are new books that have yet to be sorted. But these are additions that I'm going to be adding in addition to that. The problem is I want to be able to have them sorted by category.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah.
Because people get discouraged if you go into a folder and let's say there's 500 books.
Yeah,
but
you're
they're
right.
not. They all can be great. I think everything I pick are great books. But if they're categorized, then people will go to the category that they're interested in. Like I have a whole bunch of folders. I have archaeology in the Bible. I have
I see them.
Bible
I see them.
Intro, Old and New Testament. I have books on Calvinism. One folder, Canon, Translation, and Origin. Creation, Anti-Evolution. I have a folder on cults and false teachings. Then I have another folder strictly on theology.
I see.
So it's a trade. There are advantages and disadvantages to just dumping it in a new folder.
I totally understand.
So
So
it'll
keep
be
it the way it
worth your
is.
while.
Because you are right. If they were all scattered, then it would be very discouraging.
Once I upload the new version, it'll be well worth your while downloading the new edition. Creationism is nonsense. Okay, well, come on up, Joe Johnson. Explain to me why it's nonsense. I'd love to hear this.
I would love to hear this
Send
too.
an invite. We'll see how well you'll do. See, a lot of these people who are deep timers and evolutionists, they have the same attitude Muslims have toward their religious upbringing. They can't imagine that this group could be wrong. They think the imams of science couldn't possibly be wrong when they tell you the Earth is millions of years old.
Yeah, they accept these things as if it's gospel or whatever.
Notice here that Joe Johnson, when he says creationism is nonsense, he's utterly unwilling to come up and explain why.
He's just repeating atheist talking points.
Okay, if you troll in the text, you're going to get muted, folks. Okay? Let's see, Wager says, why are you calling people a-holes? Well, I do that from time to time, and I think it's a very fitting insult. Is it, maybe I shouldn't do that? Well, maybe I should. But these people behave in such a despicable fashion. That's why I say it. Am I wrong for saying that? Well, maybe. But I notice how you people are all quick to find fault with me, but you turn a complete blind eye and a blind ear to the unbelievably reprehensible behavior of the people that I have to deal with on a daily basis.
Darth, I'm running out of patience, man. I think I'm going to be like you in a few years.
No? Like that guy Spooky. I mean, what a nut job.
I mean, bro, I was trying so hard to give him like the chance to speak so that I could speak after. But after I realized he was an overgrown infant, I'm like, you know what? That's it. I'm done. This guy's a child.
He's psycho.
That guy is a child, man. Like, bro, that was terrible.
Well, that's an insult to children because at least children are still in a developmental stage and are partially ignorant in terms of where they head. I'm not joking.
You're right. Sorry to all the kids I insulted because that was terrible.
You know, you're a dad. You know, I've had kids. You know, and kids behave badly because they have to be taught how to be good.
Yeah, he's worse than a child. He's worse than a child. You're right. You're definitely right.
Park, come on up and explain why atheism cannot be false. I'd love to hear this.
Actually, no, gossiping doesn't go against what? Bro, we're not gossiping. We're telling the truth. He is a child.
Come on up, Park. Explain to me why atheism cannot be false. I'd love to hear it. Isn't it amazing how bold they are in the chat, yet when they're given an invitation, they're nachos? Yeah, but if I just opened up the creationist folder, there are 597
That's a lot.
dealing with creationists.
Hey, Park. Atheism in the Encyclopedia of Philosophy is a propositional belief. It states that there is
Park,
no
I'm
God.
not interested. Yeah, Park, I'm not interested in your text bantering. I want you to come up on stage, because when I talk with people in the text, they just ignore what I say. Come on up, Park. Come on up. Yeah, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I've actually read scholarly works on the definition of atheism. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yep, doesn't know what he's talking about.
No, he doesn't. Maybe you might want to read Malik's paper on the definition of atheism. What atheists continually try to champion, because they have a complete realization that they cannot falsify God's existence, is they want to continue to identify as God deniers, but redefine their God deniers is to, I lack belief. Atheism is just a rejection of a claim. I mean, this is pathetic beyond description. You're now bastardizing atheism from a denial of God to simply a psychological report that you lack belief.
This guy said he listened to your debate with T Jump today, and he should change his name to T Joke. T Jump is
Ozzy,
insufferable.
I'm going to mute Ozzy, because Ozzy is a despicable person who's a backstabber. He's lied about me, and he.
Oh, he has? God damn.
Oh yeah. He used to come on my streams and be in complete agreement. And then when I went on another stream, and it was the host's first day streaming, and he didn't know what he was doing, and there were people showing up slandering and defaming me in the text. And I said to the host, please mod me. Well, there's an interface problem that you can mod somebody, but you have to scroll to the bottom and mod them again and then hit confirm. Otherwise, you can only mod people in the text. Well, he was not doing it correctly, and I kept on insisting, saying, go to the menu and mod me or whatever. Well, because he was inexperienced, he was starting to have anxiety, and then there were other people jumping in claiming that I was being demanding and overbearing, when all I was simply was repeating what he needed to do to stop the onslaught of these vile trolls.
Right.
Well, then the host kicks me because he said I was bullying him when I wasn't. I was merely telling him what he needed to do to mod me, which he had already agreed to do. Well, Ozzy jumped in days later and joined in with the bandwagon, saying that I was bullying when I clearly wasn't. And then when I confronted him about it, weeks later, months later, he lied about it again.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. Look, you can trust me. When I say somebody's a backstabber, they are.
Darth, I see it all the time on YouTube. It's terrible. There's this guy, Josh Shostak. What's his name? No, wait. It's not him. There's this guy who kept stalking you on YouTube. I can't remember his name. Wait, let me see if I can find
I have a number of stalkers.
Hey, y'all know I got a rent to this. So when you guys go,
Hey, wait. It's supposed to come up. Let me see if I can find it. Or is it Jack? Jack Angstrich.
Oh, he's been stalking me for 16 years.
Jack Angstrich. I can't even say his last name correct.
It's Angstrich.
Angstrich. Yeah, that guy. I mean, he's every time on YouTube, he just keeps coming wherever he finds you to try to discredit you and accuse you and all of that stuff.
Yeah, he's a clown. Yeah, if you change your username, you can come back up again. I'll call you Big Pappy. I'll put it about that. What do you want to talk about, Big Pappy?
That's funny to say. Atheism is false. I think that the reason why atheism is not false is because atheism is subjective to one's personal standard of what is good enough evidence to believe atheist. Sorry, no.
I don't have the foggiest idea of what you're talking about, and I'm somebody who is probably one of the more educated people that you'll run into on TikTok on a subject of atheism.
Yeah, you're an educated person. I won't take that away from you.
Yeah, atheism is a model of reality, as theism is a model of reality.
Yeah, so like I said, it was subjective.
Are you an atheist?
I am a pantheist atheist. Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you justify that there is no creator?
Yeah, by myth stories, right? So when you take the subject of a deity, which is a creator, they have similarities in theism. Sorry,
you're not addressing my question. Okay.
Yeah. So
pantheism is you're not addressing the question. Pantheism is a type of atheism in that it denies the creator-creature distinction. How do you know and justify that there is no creator?
Because the universe is moving just fine without a creator.
Okay, you're just restating the same thing again without justifying that.
Okay, so we can see that the universe is expanding, right? And that movement is a natural movement within the universe itself, right? Because
dude, I'm too experienced for this. Okay, what you're doing is you're just invoking atheist teleology without justifying that you're in a God-independent world. How did you determine that? Listen carefully. All right, you're not dealing with any average person on TikTok. I am probably one of the most experienced people on TikTok that you will run into on a theist. Now, the world is either God-dependent or God-independent. You are staking out that, in fact, ultimately, finally, foundationally, the world is God-independent. How are you able to know that? Do you know that by pure reason or induction?
Yeah, because it could be pure. Well, induction and pure reason. Because I'll give you the pure reason.
Okay, all right. This is ridiculous. Look, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. Can you know any universal truth? Listen carefully. What is the fundamental? What is the major problem in science? What is it called?
I don't know. You could educate me on that.
And it's called the problem of induction. Because when you use induction, you can't come to universal absolutes. Okay? So you cannot use induction to logically necessitate a universal absolute. Right? Now, so induction cannot get you to the universal absolute that all things. Have you been able to determine that one thing, let alone all things, exist God independently? Have you been able to determine that?
Well, yes, right, with the evidence of the present itself. So induction is an idea. It's not a fact.
Dude, listen, don't try to bullshit me. I'm too educated for this. You're not addressing. You're not talking with a fifth grader. Okay? I told you I'm one of the more educated people on the topic. Now, how were you able to determine that even an atom exists with God independence?
That's because there is no evidence for God. Right?
Okay, that's an appeal
Because
to
there's-
incredulity. Okay, stop. That is an appeal to incredulity. It also constitutes an appeal to ignorance fallacy. That a proposition is true. Okay, listen carefully. You're doing exactly what all atheists do when I deal with them on TikTok.
Just pivoting
You are
like every other
ignoring. Okay, interrupt me again, and I'm going to kick you. You're doing what
Because they don't have
atheists
an
do. It's
argument.
called dodge, deflect. Listen, okay, sir, listen to me.
Yes.
Don't interrupt me. You're doing dodging, deflection, and verbal disruption. This is called the 3D strategy. It took me a while to figure this out, but after 16 years of virtually almost daily interacting with atheists, I began to see that patterns emerge. And the one thing that atheists do when they face robust opposition is to dodge, deflect, and then to verbally disrupt. And this is what you are doing. Now, how were you able to determine that anything exists in a God-independent way?
In order for it to exist in a God-dependent place, God would have to be evident in that place.
Okay. All right. Again, you're trying to bullshit me. It's not working. Right? You're making it what is called an appeal to, sir. Okay. All right. Have a nice day. I'm removing you not because you're disagreeing, but because you're very stupid on the topic, and you're deliberately not conversing with me like an adult. Do you know what an appeal to ignorance fallacy is?
You can educate me on that.
So you don't know?
Yeah,
Okay. An appeal to ignorance fallacy is that a proposition is reckoned to be true because it hasn't been shown to be false. Okay? Now, you are saying that the God-independent world is true because it hasn't been shown to be false by somebody presenting evidence. That's an appeal to ignorance fallacy. You understand?
You're definitely claiming it that way. Yeah, for sure. That's a good argument.
No, I'm not claiming anything. I just accurately recounted your position. Your position is saying that the proposition of a God-independent world is true because it hasn't been falsified by the presentation of evidence. Now, do you accept that in philosophy and logic, an appeal to ignorance fallacy is that a proposition is true because it hasn't been falsified? Do you acknowledge that?
Yeah, I can't even understand what you're saying. The way that you structure
Okay, have a nice
sentence,
yeah. When you grow a few more brain cells, come back and talk. Bye.
You know, I was trying to point that out to Spooky, and it was not tracking. I had to kick him off. Yeah, that is so common. They say, I'm an atheist because there's no evidence for God. That's an appeal to ignorance fallacy, and they can't even see that.
This is yeah.
They can't even see
It's
it.
an appeal to it's actually two things. It's an appeal. It's an invocation of incredulity, and it's also an appeal to ignorance fallacy. That the God, see, I'm not just looking at what they say. I'm looking at what the entailment is of what they say. So when I ask them, how is it that God does not exist? They don't tell me why God doesn't exist. They just invoke, I haven't seen God, I don't see any evidence. But within that statement, that there's no evidence, is an implicit universal claim that the world around them can be cashed out or reckoned to be God independent till shown otherwise. And then he tried to BS me by saying, giving me a little science talk that would fool a fifth grader. Well, when you're dealing with a 64-year-old who is quite informally educated on these matters, you're not going to be able to verbally bamboozle me. And he tried. Did you notice his pattern where he tried to verbally bamboozle me with his empty rhetoric?
Yeah, and kept committing the fallacy over and over again.
That's because they got nothing else. Welcome, not K. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, I guess I'd be interested in how the first premise of the transcendental arguments for God isn't going to be something which runs afoul to something like a question-begging inference.
It's not question-begging, because either it is the case that the world is indicative of God or not. Do you agree with that?
I guess I'd be interested in what the argument would be.
Okay, if you dodge...
It's a true dichotomy,
question
man.
that will put to you, if you dodge one more time...
Not a dodge.
Okay, have a nice day. You're done. You see, this is what these sleazebags do. They cheat, they're dishonest. I'm trying to explain to him about the nature of the first premise, that God is the necessary precondition. The first premise relies upon that the world is revelatory of God as the absolute. But we truncate that down to say God is the necessary precondition of all things.
Right.
Now, it's not question begging, because what we're saying is the world is emblematic of this. Now, if that is question begging, then to adopt that the world is not emblematic of God would equally be question begging on their part. You see my point?
Right.
It's
It's hypocrisy. They're throwing stones and they're living in a glass house.
Yeah. So we can talk about the first premise in terms of epistemologically as well as ontologically. Ontologically, either is the case that God is the ontological precondition of all things due to that he is the sum of all perfections, and that his mind, purpose, and plan undergird all things that are real, true, reasonable, and intelligible, and having access to truth, or not. Now, in a world with a perfect absolute, then you could and you would have access to these things. But if one operates in principle that there is not a perfect absolute, how would they give an account ontologically how truth, reason, and intelligibility would be accessible or viable? So what we're doing is we're laying out a true dichotomy and showing through the process of a reductio ad absurdum that a perfect God would and could be the precondition of truth, reason, intelligibility, with the impossibility of its negation. So it's not begging the question. You see, all they have are these pre-memorized pseudo-intellectual philosophical, you're begging the question, that's circular. Well, that ship goes both ways. Because if my reasoning for a God-dependent world is circular, then you operating from and speaking out of a God-independent world would equally be circular.
So the question should be which one of us is being coherent and consistent with our worldview, and which one grounds the intelligibility of the universe.
What we're saying is the positive representation of God, both epistemologically, meaning revelatory, and ontologically, is defended by its positive representation with the impossibility of its rational denial. It's a transcendental argument for God has a built-in reductio ad absurdum, so it's not circular.
That's right. That's funny.
So the problem we have with these people is, one, many of them have no class and character, they're immature, and a lot of them are very stupid on metaphysics, logic, philosophy, and theology. Look, when I spoke with Massimo Pallucci, on Discord in an AMA. He has 3 earned PhDs. Not 2, not 1, 3. And I asked him to explain how there's no God, and he said, well, I just don't have a reason to believe in God. And I responded by saying, I said, that's not a justification that God doesn't exist.
It's a non sequitur. It's a non sequitur.
Even I just watched an old video of Carl Sagan the Pagan talking with Dennis Prager, and I saved it on TikTok. And Carl Sagan was pulling the same shenanigans in the face of a theist that contemporary atheists do. It makes no difference how educated they are, how smart they are. They're all deploying the same specious reasoning. All of them.
Invalid talking, atheist talking points, rather.
Well, they'll go, well, which God? All right. Carl Sagan wrote a book called Science as a Candle in the Darkness. And in that book, which I have, he has a chapter talking about the invisible dragon in the garden. In the garage. And he's using this as an argument or rationale against those who advocate for God's existence. But even as brilliant as Carl Sagan was, when you rebel against God, you because of your confirmation bias, you get magnetically drawn to specious reasoning. First of all, nobody reasons for God in the way that somebody reasoned for an invisible dragon in the garage, right? We look at the world around us, and we see that the world overwhelmingly has an appearance of design. How is there an appearance that there's an invisible dragon in the garage? There isn't. So what they want to do is they want to say, oh, there's no evidence for God. Well, then why is it that dozens and dozens and dozens of atheist academics admit in writing that, yes, the world appears to be designed, but it's an illusion of design?
I was so surprised when I actually saw that, because it's indefensible. It's an indefensible position.
So Darth Dawkins gave you some good ammo there. Just go to AI.
Yeah.
Say, AI, give me dozens and dozens of citations of atheist academics who have written in their own published books and papers where they talk about the world in whole or in part, saying, yes, the world appears to be designed, but it's an illusion of design.
That's right. That's right. Don't believe Darth for a second. Just look it up for yourself. You'll see.
Stephen Hawking wrote a book called The Grand Design. Leonard Susskind, an atheist, brilliant physicist who's still alive. He was asked, does the world display intelligent design? And he said, in a 4-minute clip, he goes, yeah, it appears that way, but we used to think that about biology, but we learned something different. He goes, and one day we'll discover what produced this appearance. So even Leonard Susskind, who's an atheist, who's a brilliant theoretical physicist, acknowledged that the world appears to be designed, but that one day we'll figure out what the naturalistic mechanism that brought about the appearance of design. Yes. But here's the problem. That's an impossible endeavor, because you're going to have to show that any state of contingencies at a fundamental parameter exists God independently. That is an impossible task.
Right. That's the question I ask when someone says they believe that there are brute facts. I ask them, how do you determine that there are anything in the universe that is God independent? How do you determine that there are God independent contingencies? Even one. How do you determine that? They say they see no evidence for it. And I'm like, that's an appeal to ignorance fallacy.
Okay. That again, when they say there's no evidence for it, They're just smuggling in atheist teleology. If you go to the atheist folder, go to the atheist folder. In the atheist folder, there's another folder, anti-atheism. In that folder, there's another folder about Scott Shalkowski. And in there are several of his papers, one of which is called Atheist Teleology, where he talks about some of these brilliant atheists who argue against intelligent design, but he showcases in his scholarly paper they're smuggling in atheist teleology without being upfront about it.
Right. I'm seeing the pattern, Darth. I'm seeing the pattern with these atheists, the 3D strategy and inconsistencies and fallacies.
And they cheat when you talk with them. They dodge and they deflect.
Yeah. It's just so common. And they say the same things. There's no evidence for God. There's no evidence for God. That's a fallacy, bro. That's a logical fallacy.
Well, first of all, how is that a sustainable claim?
You don't know that, right? You don't even know that.
Well, what they're going to do, here's what they'll do. What they're going to do, they're going to go, you're shifting. Rather than answer the question, how is that a sustainable claim? They will respond by accusing us of shifting the burden and responsibility, when in fact that's exactly what, when we ask them to explain the grandiose claim, nothing is emblematic of God, there's no evidence of God, and we ask them to explain their own statement, they run away from explaining their own statement.
And on top of that, they're misrepresenting the burden shifting fallacy. The burden shifting fallacy is when you make a claim without justifying it and then says that somebody has to prove the opposite. That's not what we're doing.
Paul, come on up and explain how I'm guilty of special pleading. Come on up, Paul. You probably don't even know what the special pleading fallacy is. Oh, look at that, folks. Paul, who accuses us of special pleading, is a no-show. What a surprise. Am I guilty of domestic violence? No, that is an internet rumor posted on Reddit that atheists keep on repeating. I've never been guilty of domestic violence. I've never been arrested. I've never been charged. It never happened. Okay. Welcome, Mal. What would you like to talk about?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Is it fine if I ask for your argument? I'm fine with being dropped if you're not accepting Christians. I was just curious.
What is our argument for God?
Yeah. I'm just curious on it.
Well, God has clearly revealed himself in creation, and it's rationally undeniable. Everywhere we look in the world, from the smallest possible scale to the grandest scale, the world overwhelmingly and uncontroversially has the appearance of being the product of ultimate intentional design, with the rational impossibility of arguing that the world is an illusion of design. What I've just presented to you is a rewording of Romans 1. Ever since the beginning of the creation of the world, God's eternal powers, his divine nature, have been clearly seen through everything that has been made, so that men are without an excuse. Even atheist academics by the dozens acknowledge the world appears to be designed. So when we have an overwhelming positive case that something is a certain way, and combined with the impossibility of its negation, we have a proof for something. Now, when they come along and they go, no, it doesn't appear to be designed, these people are ignoramuses. Because the world does appear to be designed. What they should be arguing for is that the world is an illusion of design, but that is an impossible thing to sustain, because you would have to show that the most fundamental parameters of existence exist with God independence. How would they be able to determine that? They couldn't. So when we have an overwhelming positive representation of something combined with, let me give you an example. Does the external world appear to you to be real?
Yeah.
And the denial of it results in absurdity. Okay.
I had this one guy literally denied that the universe appeared to be designed. I'm like, we can't even have a conversation, man. You're crazy. Can't even have a conversation.
This is either colossal ignorance or just deceit, because design is emblematic of complex form and function. If you just study biology, not just physics and chemistry, things like that, the level of complex form and functioning is mind-bogglingly complex. Right?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And so the world does have an appearance of design. Even the term natural selection by Charles Darwin is an attempt to foist that the world is an illusion of design by virtue of naturalistic mechanisms. Why do you think Richard Dawkins titled his book The Blind Watchmaker? Being a watchmaker, okay, making watches exemplify design. Now, either the watch that exemplifies design is emblematic of agency and intentionality, or it's just simply blind physical forces produce that, which would be an illusion of design. So God's existence is clear. Christians need to understand that when the atheists go, there's no evidence for God, they don't have to say, oh, well, let me tell you how to. We just simply restate what God says and say, good, explain to me how you determine that the world is not emblematic of God. And then they go, you're shifting the burden of proof. No, I'm not. I'm asking you to explain your position. Well, my position is I'm just rejecting a claim. You haven't proven it. I mean, this is a complete abdication of their responsibility of unpacking their opposing viewpoint.
Owen, thank you.
Hey, Paul, since you're not going to come up and you continue to make attack remarks, I'm going to mute you, Paul. But if you want to come up, I'll send you another invite. I don't think you have the courage to do so. And in fact, let me just say, oh, that's right, you're blocked on my account. What a coincidence. So atheists are always invoking specious lines of reasoning. What they're doing is what Scott Shalkowski says in his paper, A Theological Apologetics. They are operating off of the presumption of atheism.
Yeah.
Okay?
Like it's the default position.
Atheism in the absence of being persuaded.
Yeah, like it's the default position.
Right. They're not defending the God-independent world. They're just adopting it unjustified, not rationally defended, and they claim, well, it's true. They're not going to be upfront and saying, I'm in a God-independent world. They're just going to go, you haven't proven God. As though the world could be spoken of intelligibly apart from God. What they don't realize is that when they don't accept that the world reveals God clearly, they are rejecting that God is the single causal first principle, that he's the final ontological referent that ties everything together, that the mind, the purpose, and the plan of God creates and sustains this world, including the imposition and the sustaining of all unity and diversity. When they exclude God and say, I don't see any reason to believe in God, say, good, then you're operating in principle that something else is actualizing all the unity and diversity in the world. Well, what is it? Well, when I asked Graham Oppie that, one of the world's smartest atheists, he folded. I see books on my shelf. Yeah, so how does that justify that unity and diversity exists apart from the mind, the purpose, and the plan of God? It doesn't. Well, if I'm wrong, come on up and set me straight. Come on up. You clowns, you're nattering nabobs of negativity, but you don't come up here as an adult. I try to go on atheist streams on a daily basis. They either won't let me up, or they instantly, within 60 seconds, start bullying me. Come on up, Queen. I'll be glad to talk with you. So what's your objection?
Hi, Gary.
What's your objection?
My objection is that you are wrong about what you're saying about atheists.
Okay. Now, in order to do so, you have to present a defeater. How am I wrong?
You are putting all atheists into a box that is inaccurate.
What box did I put them in?
How you just described all atheists.
You're being ambiguous. Can you please be clear?
Can you please describe atheists for me?
Okay, a queen. I can know when somebody's being devious and deceitful when they are persistent in being ambiguous. Now, you told me I'm wrong. I want specificity instead of vagueness. Go.
No, I would like for you to define an atheist.
Okay, I'm about to kick you because now you're being utterly
surprise, Gary.
Right, because I'm trying to inquire from you specificity, you're not giving it.
And please say my whole name when you address me.
Did you give me specificity? Yes or no?
Did you give me specificity?
Goodbye. Go back to your six-pack.
It's your claim. You're supposed to give him the specificity.
You see how mentally warped these people are?
And that's what you call shifting the burden of proof fallacy. She made a claim and wants you to disprove it. No justification, just disprove it.
Notice when I called her out and saying, I want specificity, she had no specificity to prove. She said, you're putting atheists in the box. Well, could you tell me what that box is? No, you tell me what the box is.
She was a CNN reporter.
Look, I want you to look up Nathan Thurm on YouTube. Atheists are the Nathan Thurms of this world. I didn't say that. You said that. Look up Nathan Thurm. He's this greasy-haired, profusely sweating, chain-smoking lawyer for the tobacco companies played by the great Martin Short, and he's a pathological liar. And this is... He very eloquently exemplifies atheists. They're just pathological liars.
Man. Yeah. This is hilarious, man. Okay, let me see if
I can't get any intelligent opposition.
Okay, let's see if they open.
All right, listen, I'm going to hit the sack. It's late for me. Thank you again for having me up.
All right, Darth.
And I'll let you know when I have that new book finished. I'll send you a link.
Thank you for coming every time, man.
All right. No, thank you for having.
All right. I guess there's not much more to say. How long have I been on live? All right, let me look at the time. Okay, so I've been on here for 1 hour and 54 minutes, almost 2 hours. And Darth took the show, so no, I'm not bringing Queen back up because I'm leaving. I'm gonna go do some reading. I got a lot of reading to do. I want to know more than Darth, way more than he does. He sent me his library. I have like probably over 10,000 books, I think, because of Darth. Yeah, but I'm not gonna. I don't think I'm gonna stay much longer. I'm gonna get off of here and go do some reading and try to learn some more. But Darth is right about the pattern. The atheist will say, "I'm an atheist because there's no evidence for God," or I haven't seen any evidence for God." That is an appeal to ignorance fallacy. If you guys know just a little bit about logic, you learn that these arguments are dumb. They're crazy. Can you imagine if you asked us Christians, why are you a Christian? And we say, well, because there's no evidence that there is no God. There's no evidence that there is no God. The God proposition has not been falsified, therefore it's true. That's an appeal to ignorance fallacy. Or if we say, you can't prove God does not exist, therefore God exists. That's a dumb argument. That's a dumb argument, guys. And any Christian who gives you that argument, call them out on it. That's a dumb argument. But that's equivalent to you saying, I'm an atheist because there's no evidence for God. It sounds reasonable, but it's dumb. It's totally dumb. It's an appeal to ignorance fallacy. Look it up and see if I'm lying. Look it up. And that's what I hear all the time. All the time when I talk about this topic. Atheism is false. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. When I say atheism is false, I'm looking at the philosophical definition of atheism. That atheism is a proposition that God does not exist. And propositions carry truth value. Either they're false or they're true. The proposition God does not exist is false. That's what I mean when I say atheism is false. Now, the other version of atheism, which is what you guys like to grab onto, and I was pointing this out to Spooky, is that if you say that you simply lack a belief in God, then anything is anything can be an atheist. This cup can be an atheist. You know why? Because this cup lacks belief in a God. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true. This cup is an atheist because it lacks belief. It doesn't have any belief. So, I mean, guys, you gotta... Guys, the cup lacks belief in a God, therefore it's an atheist. That's how dumb that definition is. It's not informative. You don't have to have consciousness to lack belief in something. You lack belief. Okay, so let me tell you what I mean by lack belief. You are without belief. It's not there. It's empty. There's nothing there. So my finger lacks belief. There's nothing there. That's belief, which makes my finger an atheist. That's how dumb the definition is. It was invented by a man named Anthony Flew. Before he invented that form of atheism, it didn't exist. It didn't exist anywhere in literature. It didn't exist. This negative form of atheism where you simply lack a belief in God, that's dumb. It's so dumb. That is so dumb. And then I ask, what is your reason for lacking belief in God? And then you get the fallacy, because there's no evidence for God. Or because I haven't seen any evidence for God. Man. Anyways, I'm gonna jump. Guys, thank you for coming. Keep me in your prayers, everybody who's a Christian. And until next time, all right? All right, so everybody on YouTube, I'm going to jump off of here, get some sleep. It's been a long day. And like, share, subscribe, and see you next time.